Hi everyone, and welcome to Therapy from Inside Out. My name is Azadeh and I'm a psychotherapist here in Los Angeles. Today I have a very exciting guest here with me. His name is Michael. He is an author of a book called Nobody's Home. He's also a retired probation officer, deputy probation officer, and also he is a psychotherapist and communication and behavioral coach. So it's a long title after his name. And I'm so excited to have him here because what we are going to talk about, how it is to grow up without a father, and also how it is to be Black and be successful in this society. So I'm going to leave it up to Michael to kind of tell us more about himself, and then we're going to dive into pick his brain. Michael, thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you for having me. It's nice to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself if I missed something so the viewers can kind of get to know you?
Well, I am an author of the book When Nobody's Home, and it has to do with fatherless children. And so just a little background on me. I'm an African American, but however, I am light skinned. Mm-hmm. And my parents are African American, but my mother's very light. Mm-hmm. And that's a whole other story. So we grew up in Minnesota, kind of where the riot started. And we were the first Black family ever to move in the county of Minnesota. Wow. And we were the first, and the community was the first Black family they've ever experienced. Okay? There were situations where one school district bought out the other school district, so we didn't attend it.
Oh my God. This is mind-blowing. So what you're saying is that you were not allowed to attend that school district that you moved to?
Yes.
Okay, Michael, how long ago was this?
This is probably the late 60s, early 70s.
So what happened? So where did you?
We just went to a school that would accept us, and I heard this years later from my mother, because she's the one that dealt with it. And she never told us, but we just heard it down the line. And being the first African American family, you got to remember, we need the first ever. You're going to get a lot of racial taunts and racial slights and all those sorts of things. And so I had 8 brothers, so that helped. So we were always together. Mm-hmm. And therefore we traveled together. So when we received racial slights and all the N-word, I remember in first grade, I was the only Black kid in that elementary school, and he called me the N-word. I turned around and I remember grabbing his lips and twisting them. And I remember, I said, "Oh my God," because my dad told me about that. So you go home and tell your parents, and luckily my parents said, you got to never give in to that word. You never back down. You're going to hear this a lot. You are different. They've never seen you, because they touch your hair, they touch your skin, and which to a degree that's okay because they've never seen it before. Yeah. So those are the things I grew up with in Minnesota, for about 10 years, all through high school. You get the slights. On the other hand, we go to a Catholic high school, and you got the Black kids in the city who saw Black kids go to a Catholic high school, and there was that other side of the argument, where they were jealous that you went to this high school. Who do you think you are? Mm. So there's this whole paradigm, or this whole dichotomy of not only racism, but racism within the race.
So then it sounds like you couldn't fit into the Black school, but then the Black people also, you didn't fit in because now you seem like goody two-shoe. Now you're too good for us. Now you went to this fancy school or Catholic school that probably a lot of people didn't get to go.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah.
So how did your parents deal with it? How did they educate you or prepare you for such thing?
Well, I remember my dad was my football coach for the first 5 years, best years of my life. And I remember I decided to take it easy in practice one day. I remember, and I took a lap. I came in last because I was tired, whatever. I was 10 years old. And he pulled me aside and he said, "Son, you can never afford to come in last because of the color of your skin. You can never afford to be lackadaisical. You always have to try 3 times harder. They are always looking for you to make a mistake. You cannot afford to have this kind of behavior. And I'll never forget, I was 10 years old. So no matter what I did, as long as I didn't come in last, as long as I gave it my best shot, right? And, we always sat down and talked about what happened during the day, during grade school and high school, and what we needed to do to get through that. And we got in a lot of fights in high school, a lot. And, and every time we got in a fight and we defended ourselves, they would suspend the kid for 3 to 5 days to a week, and we'd always go back to class. It was like this routine, the N-word, what? Boom, boom, boom. And what happened? You call me the N-word. Oh, I go back to class, Oden. You're suspended for X amount of days.
Do you feel like, since your dad had that talk to you at 10 years old, I cannot imagine sitting down with a 10-year-old and say, hey, you know what? This is the reality of where we live, and you have so many odds against you. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the target on your back that you might have felt, has it been there throughout your life? Is it still there?
Yeah, there's that we call it post-traumatic stress a little bit. There's always that, especially from white men, because it was the white guys who did this. So mm-hmm. I'm always hesitant about getting to know a white male.
Still.
Yeah, there's that little, I gotta wait. Mm-hmm. I don't know where you're coming from yet. And what is the hesitation?
Where do you think they're coming from? What is your experience that you have that hesitation?
Well, in high school, you think they're your friend, and then they think they can use the N-word in front of you, or they stab you behind your back and say something about the race. When they get amongst their friends, and then they're making racial comments, racial jokes about certain things. Mm-hmm. And I heard a lot, and I saw that in college. And so there's always that. You just got to wait and see what kind of person you're dealing with before you make the decision to trust them.
Oh. And Michael, have you felt like it's been all your family, all your 7 brothers, are they all light skinned like you?
No, I have a brother who's like a chocolate brownie.
And
he looks like he has my features, but looks like a chocolate brownie. I have a twin brother who's brown.
Wow.
Like mocha. I'm like mocha with a cinnamon twist. And then another brother who, the rest of them are pretty much brown. Mm-hmm. A brother older than me is like my complexion. So we have the gamut of color.
So do you, have you experienced ever that you've been treated differently when you have been with your brothers versus not with your brothers because of the color of your skin?
Well, okay, so in the Black community, you have different shades. I think there's 16 different shades. That's what I heard.
Wow.
But the different shades. And I didn't realize, because, I grew up in Minnesota, but at the time, it was like 95% white.
Ooh.
Right? Mm-hmm. So there are not too many of us out there. Yeah. And I had so many racial confrontations growing up that I think of myself as very dark. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think I'm really dark because all I did was fight in the N-word, and they're always looking at you and hate male, all this thing in my life. So when I leave Minnesota and go to college out east in Massachusetts and stay out in the New York area, New Jersey area, mm-hmm. There were comments from Black people about my skin tone. I said, "What? No, I'm just like you." And they go, "No, you're light. No, you can get away with things." That says, and I didn't think about it because it never had happened. Mm-hmm. And then I go, "Oh, so wow, so I am less threatening." In other words. Mm-hmm. Okay, but I haven't been out in the world to really test it. And then, because I remember I was in Harlem one day, and then one lady said, "You think you're better than us, a Black woman?" I said, "What do you mean?" And you just think because you're skin color. I said, "Wow, that's interesting. That's her perception of me, where my experience has been different." Mm. But in this world, and in the big world, it can be seen as an advantage. And my mother was light skinned, and I'll be honest, they thought she was white. And they try to take her off the black train and put her on the white train. You know, she goes that far back, right?
Oh my God.
Oh yeah. So, and she had to use that to survive the South back in the 20s and 30s.
She had to take advantage of the color of her skin.
Yeah. Sometimes she had to use it to get through. Yeah.
That's so sad that obviously this has happened. We can't change the past, but
right.
Do you see that it's happening still? You said that you have a hard time trusting a white male coming up to you or want to befriend you.
Right.
Do you think that your color, this color of your skin, is still a topic wherever you go? Would you be comfortable walking into a church with only white people?
Yes, it's now. It's people don't know what I am. I could be Cuban, I could be Puerto Rican. In New York, they thought I was Puerto Rican. Right now, with my beard, you know, I look like from the Middle East. You know, and people are like, "Well, who are you? What are you?" And all I say is, "I'm happy. You know, I'm content." You know, so it's interesting, you know, the responses you get until they ask you because they don't know. People's perception of you being black is they think dark skin. I said, no, they come in very many shades. How do you think I got like this? If I were to tell you the history of my family, it was my great-great-grandmother who was a product of the house, the slave owner.
Oh, wow.
And they had 4 sisters. And my great-great-grandmother was one of them. And then she had my grandmother, and then my grandfather, and so on down the line. And they all had this shade. And back in the South in those days, you did not want to call it breeding or mate with a darker skinned person because of the disadvantages they had. So you tried to keep it light so you could have the advantage. Yeah.
Tell me, do you have any kids?
I have one. Pardon me?
Is it a boy or a girl?
A boy, girl. He's 27 now.
Uh-huh.
Oh no, 25. 25.
Uh-huh.
And he has a big fro.
Uh-huh.
And they don't know what to make of him because his mother's Mexican.
Oh wow. So that's another layer to
There's another layer. So he gets pulled over by the police and they don't know what to make of him. He says, what's your ethnicity? Oh, I'm African American. I said, well, tell him you're Mexican too, so that's your mother. But yeah, he has that. He fits in with the white community more because of his light-skinned complexion, but he has a fro that looks like a dandelion. So that's a big giveaway, and you know, so it's about 18 inches long or high or whatever.
Gosh.
Yeah.
So, Michael, did you sit down with your son growing up, like your dad did, and tell him, hey, this is how the reality is. You have to work harder to get where you want because of this target that you have on your back just because you're half black?
Oh yeah. It's like a natural progression. It's one of those things that it's just you this is what you're going to need to do because you want your son to succeed, and there's going to be certain barriers that you're going to encounter that may inhibit you from fulfilling your potential. So you gotta work twice as hard, 3 times as hard. You can't make mistakes. You gotta be on your P's and Q's. It's like an act. And in the black community, they call it the mask. You gotta put the mask on to go out into the world to deal with the people who are making intrinsic bias assumptions about you.
Ugh, that's so stressful. So what if we would see you without mask? What would happen if there were no mask?
Then people would actually be who they are and express their opinion about the situation, and there'd probably be a lot of arguments, a lot of confrontation, a lot of conflict, because I don't like putting the show on to have you accept me. Because it's always, when I say, well, your kids are well behaved, well, even though they're black.
Oh.
Well, there's always those digs. And for someone like me, I would hear you're the good kind of black guy.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah, you're the good kind. But what does that mean? Or you don't speak black. What? No, I speak English. Now there's certain dialects and colloquialisms from the place you grew up in. You know, you can speak urban, we'll call it. All right, you're from the city, and that's what they speak like. You know, just it depends where you grow up. So you get those kind of slight. So everybody has their perception of what a black person is, as opposed to
like if you take the mask on, it would be arguments day out with people who would make those judgments and digs at you, and obviously it's going to be hard to go through life to every day argue with people and correct them constantly.
Yeah. And then you get the stigma, well, you're the angry black man or the angry black woman. So it just never ends. It's always something. As opposed to you're a human being and you're angry who happens to be a black man or a white man or a black woman or a white woman. You know, that's it. But we like to lump things together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you afraid for your son, for his safety? Especially because of what's going on now, and I think now is just being captured and put it on social media. But I mean, I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Sweden. I grew up with a lot of racism myself. But I think when I came here, I didn't realize that there's so much racism, that it's underlying, that people don't talk about it. And I feel like now it's out in the open more so than maybe before. And I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you scared for your son? Are you scared for what's happening in our society right now, of him being a half black and of him being portrayed and always have to put the mask on to go out and kind of be who he is?
I'm not afraid for him, but I know that he needs to stand on his own. He needs to have enough dignity for himself to not put up with certain social, ills, we'll call it. I don't. Again, he probably has an advantage because of his light skin. He's not a quote unquote threat, So there's that. And then I talked about that. So saying, when they look at you, you're not the typical black male guy. You got the fro and everything, and I see the nose and the lips, and we got that, but you're light skinned. So you have this. It's not right or wrong. This is who you have. You're not gonna get, or you're not gonna put up with certain behaviors of police or other people because of that. You're going to get, maybe a chance or two, and that sort of thing. And when you're talking about the social upheaval that we're having now, here, the perfect example that I saw was this. Remember the guy watching the birds in the park. Oh,
that grieves me so much. Just want to go through the TV and okay.
That is a perfect example of what blacks go through every day. Watching the birds, and he recommends putting the leash on the dog, but because of who the message came from, black male. You're a threat. That's what blacks deal with every day. That sort of, oh my God, look at that, right? Now, that's the intrinsic bias. Then we go to the George, I forget his last name.
George Floyd.
Right? Now we go to the extrinsic, what we get to see on the outside of what people really do. So you have those two perfect examples of what blacks go through every single day, And yeah,
Michael, so it just kind of clicked right now that you were talking about this man in the park. If that would happen to me every day, I would be that angry person. I would be the person who would snap at someone if they just raised an eyebrow at me. So how do you become this balanced person? How do you kind of try to keep all this anger in and not let you affect you?
And you wonder why blacks have high blood pressure, high stress, all those conditions that make them die early. This is the stress they hold on, and their body's vibrating like this, trying not to snap because of the game they have to play. Okay? And it starts at a young age. And they're calling And then I remember watching a couple of news shows where they're saying that that's almost a disease. You know, it's you have to find outlets. You need to do things to lower the stress, because it is constant, especially when you work in corporate America and you're the only one. I just had I call her my de facto niece. She called me up. She's half black, half white, and she's the only mixed girl in the dang her job. And she's like, what do I do with this? How do I fit in? Because sometimes, because all her friends now want to help with the cause, and one girl put these grills on her teeth to be like a rapper, because she thinks that's a black thing. No, that's a rap thing. So she's like, she gets upset as and this constant vibration, wears at you. It just does, and it's been going on for so long. And then actually, for a while, it's like this. It's almost natural. It's almost natural, And as you know, as a probation officer, I heard the stories what the cops did, and just picking.
Let's go into this. I'm glad that did you see, as a probation officer, tell me, how did you get into it? How long were you working as a probation officer?
Well, I got into it by accident because I was substitute teaching in the juvenile halls. So I'm a teacher of the juvenile halls. That's basically the childhood prisons, gangbangers, that whole kind of thing. And I remember, and I did that because I was supporting my acting career at the time. So
I did not know that. Wow.
So I was doing my acting thing, doing the tour. So I remember how I subconsciously was treating the white kids who were criminals different than the black kids. I caught myself. I said, damn, I am doing, because you hear the stories where the kids would get the same charge, but a different sentence. I was like, and I saw myself treating that. And I said, well, you gotta really be mindful and awaken to treat everybody fairly. So
where do you think that came from? Where do you think that came from, that you, as a black man, was doing exactly the same thing that people, white people were doing, and things that you probably didn't even agree on, but subconsciously?
Right, exactly, right. That was like that's an enlightening moment. So I said, something. It is the commercials, it's the TV shows, it's who you see in power all the time. It's the image that white is right and black is not. And I'm sure you heard the experiments where you had little grade school kids that had 5 different shades. No,
I don't know about it. Please
so they have 5 different shades, right? Dark brown to pink to white, right? They would ask 3, 4, 5-year-olds, who would you like to be? Who do you think is the smartest? Who is the this? And and every kid, black or white, picked the white kid.
That's so sad.
Even they did it, and then they did it with dolls. I want the white doll because the white doll's better. The white doll's smarter, and the white doll is this. So those are ingrained over and over and over in our heads. Boy, it's amazing what goes on in our subconscious when you see it on TV. Because if you don't ever see a black commercial or black TV show on TV, you think, well, so that's what the real world is. And those people they got a family, they got kids, and they live really well. Wow, but I'm not like that. So I guess so it's ingrained.
So did you then, obviously, you changed your...
Yeah, I had to flip a button. I said, okay, I got it. Yeah. But that's what America needs to do that. You get it, because everybody wants to lump people together because it's just easy, as opposed to let me get to know you before I make a decision on how you are as a person.
Of course.
Yeah, because I've had black friends speak Shakespeare in the elevator when a white woman's in there to lessen the threat. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, because a big black man, if you look at the old, they're characterized as aggressive and rape the women and all this sort of thing, and they're like, and so it just gets implanted.
So how long were you working as a probation officer?
21 years.
21 years. During this 21 years, what was it? Was it mostly Tell me about the population of.
My population was in South Central, South Central area. We had the largest field office in the country. LA County Probation is the largest probation department in the world, or in the country.
Wow.
At the time, we had over 81,000 people on probation, 60,000 adults, 20,000 kids. We're back a few years.
Uh-huh.
So the population would probably be 50% Hispanic, 50% Black, 40% Hispanic, and 10% Asian, white, if that. Yeah.
And why do you think that is? Why do you think that there is a higher number of African Americans or Blacks?
Well, if you look at 95% of my clients, and I always ask this question: did you have a father in life? And I look at my records, and it turned out to be about over 95% did not have a father. Then there's the money gap, educational gap. Education is not important. So there's a lot of my clients when they were young did not know education was important because it wasn't expressed in their home, so they didn't know. You know, their whole thing is about surviving. And if you don't know, then how do you do better?
Yeah. And
that's what I saw. And then you have the police. A lot of the money. They increased patrol in those areas for Black crime. You know, and all you had to do was walk down the street and they would just stop you for whatever reasons. So they had that on top of that. You know, just being picked on because you're Black. And they would make it. They could make up crimes. I've heard the stories from my clients. They could make up crimes. They could accuse you of something you didn't do. They would have something in their pocket and throw it on the ground and say that's yours. You know, those kinds of things. So there's all these variables that or hurdles that they need to overcome in order to try to get through. And when you ask the question, well, how many make it out of the hood? And I would have to say maybe 5%, if that, to make it out and really get a good job, good profession, the education, that sort of thing.
What do you tell to people who I've heard so many times is that we all have an equal opportunity. If that one person got out of the hood, then why didn't the other person do the same? And because people that think like that tend to take that one person who become successful. They can say, okay, if this person did it, then the recipe works. Then others are either lazy or they want to be where they are or they deserve it. What do you say to those?
Well, number one, that means you've been in your bubble too long. In a bubble, you know. If you haven't walked in their shoes, you don't know. Okay, that's number one. The other one thing is why do some make it? I always have that question. Well, some people, and I talk about this in my chapter 3 of my book, the right brain, left brain. If you're really analytical and you look at the situation and go, you know something, if I stay here, this and this and this will happen. I need to make a decision to go on, even if I don't have the support of my mother or the father or that kind of thing. Some people can do that. If you're more emotional, which is the right side of the brain, you'll go, you know something, I'm not getting my needs met from my mother or father, and I'm very upset. So I'm going to make society pay for that. Okay? That's one way to do it. Sometimes you have to take a step back. Watch this. It's the crab effect, where if one person wants to do different and maybe wants to go to a higher education and the rest don't, they will make this one person pay because they're doing something different, because they have to look at themselves as to why they're not doing it. Okay?
A lot of group pressure.
Yes, I've had a lot of those guys where, you know something, man, they maybe feel guilt, they wouldn't be my friends, so they didn't have enough strength to, keep going. You know something, you have to get new friends. That's hard, because everybody wants to belong. Everybody wants their family, their friends, and and so there are a lot of variables that you have to overcome. There's so many hurdles to overcome coming from a poor environment that is that is harmed by a lack of funds, lack of resources, lack of all the things that a white suburban school has. But what's funny? The white suburban schools sell more dope than the black schools.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But you know why I didn't know that? Because I feel like society don't talk about that.
If
the
you
media doesn't talk about that.
Yeah. I've gone to enough drug symposiums with the sheriff's department, and they did stings on those private middle schools in those fancy neighborhoods. Boy, the drugs. Look at the cars. Poor communities don't have those. Oh yeah. So that's just a little sidebar there.
Does it anger you?
What that
they have designed this society in a way that prevents black people striving and being able to make it, because I feel like they have there is a certain
ceiling or level.
Yeah, exactly. That you have to really have this within you to be able to break it through. Either you grew up like you did with your family, you wanted to do better for their kids, or you have to have it within you. Does it anger you? Because it sure angers me.
Yeah, here it is. America is a country on contradiction and hypocrisy.
Amen to that.
Okay, so watch this. When they say all men are created equal, really? Right? Here's the caveat to that. If you're property, you're not considered a human.
No.
So therefore that does not include slaves when they wrote that. Does that make sense? So yes, all white men are created equal, but anybody else is not. So they get over on that one. Then you say in the pledges of allegiance, justice for all. There's another lie.
Yep.
You keep saying that, but then you pray. You go to church on Sunday and pray to your God or whoever you go to, and then you come back and then you show racist behavior towards a certain group of people. You don't like them. I'm trying to. That's where I remember. I go to a Catholic high school. The N-word, they wrote the N-word on the bathroom floors or the bathroom walls. They did all. We had 3 trash bags full of hate mail because they wanted me and my brothers to leave the school, or the other blacks who attended. There were only 6 of us at the school at the time. Okay, but we didn't find that out, of course, till later, because they wouldn't tell us that they got the hate mail from the community. Okay. And so you have all these. So we talk about anger. So you're a Catholic school trying to be a good human being, yet you hold the color of my skin against me.
Yeah.
And I always thought that was hypocritical.
Of course, and it says Catholic school. I have a religion. Aren't we all the same? Aren't you practicing spread kindness to everybody? Everybody's equal. Do not judge. Don't lie. Be kind. So you are basically contradicting your whole foundation by doing that.
Yeah.
So
that's where my anger and frustration comes in, because of what you just said. And then I go to a Jesuit college, and it's the same thing. So it doesn't really matter, does it, people? You as long as you get yours, we'll call it, and you get to, act like the dominant culture and not respect others.
So let me ask you, Michael, this is something that you mentioned, the N-word. And I did, like I said, I didn't grow up here. I came here in my mid-20s. Why is it okay for a black person to use the N-word,
right,
and not for a white person? Because I'm thinking, if you don't want this word to be used, then why are you using it yourself to talk about your own community? So enlighten me.
Well, I'll do the best I can on this one. I remember using it when I was 15 with my brother. We just did. It's just one of those things. It's like, somebody will keep it simple. Number one, we probably need not even do it. We just stop. Okay, so there's that. Two, it's like someone talking about a relative you don't like. You can talk about that relative, but we can't. Because you're not in our family. So shut up. Okay? So that's a basic way of saying that. And it is interesting because that word is used almost as a friendship thing now.
Yeah.
You know? And here it is. Even people from other countries use it. But here's what they did. I remember my substitute teaching. I put the N word with an R, and then I put the Nigga, nigga, on the board. When I pointed to the Nigger, these kids were pissed. They were upset because I was talking to them about it. About we're not that, we're the other one. Which is more as a friendship bonding thing. And I said, oh my God. So and even white suburban kids use it. Mm. And you know what they call themselves?
What?
Wiggers. Wiggers.
Wigger.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
They took the N and put the
W. Took a W. Yes. So it's interesting how you can just take a word and make it become something else.
Only white people can do that, my friend.
I'm telling you, only they can do that.
Dude, we're gonna get so many hate mails because of this, but who cares?
You gotta ruffle the feathers. You gotta ruffle the feathers.
Yes, I guess we have to. So going back to, you saw a lot of, or you work with a lot of teens and a lot of men. I want you so first of all, do I call you a black man or an African American?
I like black. I'm old school. Looking, I got my dashiki on, and I'm going.
Okay. As a black man, how can someone that have been absent in their kid's life, how can they become a more active dad? And now that we have Father's Day coming up, so it would be a great opportunity for them to kind of take this chance and start making a difference in their own lives and also in the lives of their kids. What tools do you think fathers can use to be able to redeem themselves?
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of my clients who weren't very good fathers, or they didn't know how to father. They didn't know how to relate to kids because no one related to them. So anybody can make a kid, but now you got to spend time with the child, and talk to the child and relate to the child. So a lot of them didn't know how to do that. So I would keep it simple and I would put them in their own shoes, going, what was your experience when you didn't have your father around? So imagine what your son's going through. So I broke it down to a couple of steps going like this. Number one, tell them why you didn't show up.
Okay.
Tell them why you weren't there.
I'm gonna write it down.
So they know, because most kids will blame themselves for a parent not showing up on an emotional, social level. Okay, they just, did I do something? What was I wasn't a good enough kid? Should I have tried harder in some ways? And so that's what goes on in the kids. So let them know what happened to you, that no one showed up in your life, that your parents neglected you, and I didn't know how to show up, son. So I'm letting you know that now. Then the next step is this: spend time with them. Now it's time. Spend time. And when you spend time, make sure they matter. Make sure that you care, right? And that you are of value. That's it. Hey, you mean something to me. You mean a lot because you're my child. And if a parent or a father were to do that to his son he has not seen, I'm telling you, maybe 50 or more % of the emotional burden on that kid would just go, oh my God, he's finally here. Finally here. Thanks, because I've gotten people off of heroin because one of the stories that makes me cry and that really hurts me, and I should have used my acting technique when I had to cry for a scene, is when you have a little kid who's 4, 5, 6, or 7 years old waiting for their parent to show up to pick them up, and they never show up.
That's sad. It
is. It kills me, and they're excited. Everything is just their whole being is, my dad's going to pick me up. My dad's going to, tell me he loves me. He's going to do all these things. I'm getting teary-eyed already. I'm like, oh. And I've heard those stories so many times. And one of my guys, when I was doing my internship after our school, he didn't show up for 3 years. No wonder he did heroin. And I brought that to his attention. And he hated me at the beginning, but then he realized, Mr. Oden, you were telling the truth. I go, I know. And you cussed me out initially, then y'all gave me a big hug after that, because you got to get that thing out of the way, the elephant in the room. So when you do that to a child, when a child is waiting and his whole being is my father, who is our first gods in our life, and parents are our first gods, when they don't show up, there's a scar. And then there's another one. There's another one. Then I am unworthy. No one cares. I don't matter. And then the behavior and the antisocial behavior begins to develop.
So, I mean, it's heartbreaking.
It is. It's heartbreaking.
As we speak right now, there are little girls or little boys sitting and waiting for their fathers to show up. Do you think that these dads are scared to face, and they have this in their mind? Obviously they think of themselves as demons, and now they have to kind of look at themselves in the mirror and face why they haven't been there. You think they're scared? Is that why they don't?
No, I don't think they're scared per se. I think it's the fact they don't know any better. They just don't know. They're in a lot of pain, and there is fear involved, because that means the fear is this, and I've had this, and I've seen this many times. The fear is that I have to look at my caregivers and what they didn't give me, and that they are human and they failed me. That's the key. So
now they have to look at their own wounds and scars, which is so painful, and relive that, and then move forward and take a step to have a relationship with them.
Because the fantasy is, our parents are a fantasy, right? Oh, they're the greatest people on the planet. But when they let us down, they're still the greatest people on the planet. But they always let us down. They're still the greatest people on the planet. So you go, and then you have to go, and I've done this and I've seen this, you have to go back and go, so tell me how great they were. Tell me why they were such wonderful parents. And when they can't tell me, then they're like, oh shoot, they really weren't. No, they're human, who have flaws, and we're unable to meet your needs because of what they went through. We're not making the parent the bad parent or the good parent, we're making them the people. Human beings who have had experiences that you paid for. Let's just understand you're the parents, and let's understand what they did to you, so you can heal yourself, so this doesn't become generational. That's the key. You pass it on.
Break the cycle. So it's kind of simple. I mean, I was thinking that being an active dad would have a long list of laundry that they have to do, but it is pretty simple, yet very hurtful, is that just acknowledge that you have been absent. Give them a reason why, let them in, take your wall down so they can see a little bit inside what you have gone through, and spend some quality time with them. This is basically, and show them that you care. It's pretty simple. It doesn't requires you to kind of go out and buy a lot of things. Oh
God, that's not, I love that. I'm glad you said that. Here's what I get. I had a great childhood. Well, why? What was so great about it? I got everything I wanted. Right? But you're in front of me with a criminal record. I said, so why was your life so great and you're here? Tell me what you didn't get. And this is where I get them. Well, I got toys, I got this, I got the car. Okay, so tell me what you didn't get from your parents. And I have them think. I said, did they meet your need for connection, predictability, bonding, choice, right? And they go, oh no, you know something? You're right. My dad was never around. He was always working. Thank you. That's why, and he was always working 16-hour a day. So he abandoned you unintentionally. He abandoned you because he was working, trying to provide for the family. But you pay a price for that. And they go, and then now they look at for what, oh yeah, shoot, yeah, you're right. And then they get angry and start crying. But that's the realization they have to see. And we're not making him the bad dad, we're just making him the dad who decided to choose work over time with the child. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Michael, before we wrap this up, now that you have come so far in your own journey and you are so successful, answer me this. Would you feel comfortable walking into a place with all white people, knowing what you know now?
No, there'd be that 10% of hesitation. Yeah.
Still.
Because I don't know what they've experienced. Mm-hmm. So I got to wait and see what I'm going to pay for, how they see me, as their equal, or as just a guy, as opposed to what are you doing here? You're not one of us. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
If you, this is another thing I want to ask you. If you would go back one day in your childhood, which day would it be and why? I want to kind of leave it on a better note.
Which day in my childhood?
Mm-hmm.
I am one of my superpowers is humor. I make people laugh. Uh-huh. And I always tease. And I was never a good student. Didn't have it in me. I was always just a grinder, right? And thank God my parents always gave me self-esteem. I swear. Otherwise, who knows what I'd do? So I remember I got an A on my math test in 3rd grade or something. Mm-hmm. And I went home and I put red check marks and I said, look, Mom, I got an F. And she cried. And I said, oh, no, Mom, I was just kidding. No, Mom, I did really good. I just want to take that back and say, Mom, I'm just playing, So, yeah, I take that one. But I told her about that, so.
Oh, that's so sweet. Are you still thinking about, how old were you?
I was, 3rd grade, so 8 years old or something like that. Yeah.
Very creative mind to think of that.
Oh, no, it's devious mind, devious.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you and picking your brain. Is there anything you want to add that you feel like we didn't cover before we say a goodbye?
Yeah, well, I want to encompass, we talk about the choices, the racial issues and the racism and all that, the changes that are going on. In order for this to change, the people who have been perpetuating the racism just need to acknowledge that it has been happening, and they need to sit down with people who go through it and just see what it's like. It's kind of like, so what is it like? You go, I hear this. I didn't realize that. I didn't realize y'all went through that. I didn't know it was so tough for you guys. And just so they have some empathy around that. So everybody can be on the same page. We're not trying to make everybody guilty around it, but it just happened. It happened. It's been going on. So no shame or blame. It's just more understanding and awareness around it.
I wish they could hear this and they could take this and move it toward an actionable item, because I so believe that too, that they need to just acknowledge it. Once you acknowledge and once you validate, half of the hurt is gone. Now you can move towards healing.
Yeah.
And I wish they all could take some lessons from you or get coaching from you, or maybe they can read your book. I don't know. I'm going to link it here. So maybe they could get some tools how to kind of bring the society together that has been divided for so long.
For so long.
But it's been great. I had a great time. I learned so much, and I think viewers are learning what it is, how to become an active dad, and also how it is to live with all the obstacles against you and still kind of make it. So
Kind of make it, yeah.
yeah, thank you so much, and I hope we can have a conversation very time soon again.
Anytime. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you, everyone. I hope you are out there staying safe and staying kind, and I will be linking Michael's website and contact information if you want to reach out to him, and I will see you next time. Mwah.